It's been a bit of a quiet start so far for the Miami Hurricanes in the transfer portal, but here's how things can heat up fast.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this loaded episode, for those who are already looking ahead to Miami's opener against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, we now know who won't be quarterbacking the Irish week one, and we probably know who will, and it's interesting because it's probably going to be a freshman making his first start. We'll talk about that. We'll talk recruiting nuggets for Miami on their top targets. We'll talk transfer portal nuggets because we have with us, and I'm adding a title to your resume, Brian Smith. Like, you're not only the recruiting overlord, you are now the recruiting and portal overlord as you host the Portal podcast here on Locked On. So, Brian, first things first, I know, Miami has been linked to a lot of reports to Syracuse transfer receiver Trebor Pena. Boy, is there a lot to unpack there after what Fran Brown said the other day. And just so people know the latest on Pena, I haven't seen anything yet on a possible Miami visit, but he is going to be visiting Penn State. So I don't know if James Franklin is ready to pony up $2 million, if that is the asking price, Brian, but it looks like a Penn State visit is next up for Pena.
Zero chance. Nobody's paying a slot receiver $2 million. Zero chance. And I mean, we can move on if that's what we want to talk about. I will lose it on this podcast if we go down. There is no freaking way. But I mean, everybody starts at a price and then they have to negotiate. My guess is, and Penn State is not generally aggressive with NIL. Highly doubt that's where he'll end up. He'll be the lowest. If it's Tech and Miami is the other ones, they'll have the lowest offer. That would be my guess. Now, if going to Penn, he could be the final piece to Penn State winning the national title next year, though. That's going to be their pitch. Like, they might be preseason number one. They're going to be really good. Does he want that, or is he just about money? If he's just about money, I'd be kind of weary if I was Mario going after him. That's gotten a lot of teams in trouble. I'm just going to leave it at that. Be careful for what one asks. But he is productive. Trebor Pena is legit. When he's like, he tore up Miami and every other team he played against last year. Like, he's just legit. So the question is, what is a slot receiver worth? That is proven. Like, it's not an upside deal. He's a senior. He's got the numbers. I don't know. I can't even see paying a slot $1 million. Yeah. I can't. So, like, it's one thing for Travis Hunter or Jeremiah Smith to get they're difference makers in a way that you can't teach. I could coach those guys. It's not that hard, but Payne is a slot. There's a lot easier ways to get players because the size is easy. Malachi could probably help you quite a bit. And I know they just lost Nye Carr, but like, why would you even pay him like $900K? I don't see it.
I'm not even sure if 2 million is a real number, because like I watched that interview and I talked about it yesterday, the Fran Brown interview on Q's Talk Live. It's like he brought up 2 million kind of out of context from the original question. Like, he didn't explicitly say this is what Pena asked me for. So I couldn't tell if he was just like bringing up a number to make a point or if that was Pena's number. Watching Fran Brown interviews is interesting because he's like the complete opposite of Mario Cristobal. A lot of people think Mario Cristobal doesn't say enough. I think Fran Brown says way too much. And I thought he threw Pena under the bus a little bit. So if who knows if we're talking monopoly money or we don't know what the real price is, like, we can agree that if Miami could get Trebor Pena on a deal that both sides are happy with, he could help them, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he comes to Miami, it changes their offense. That's a guy that it could be your number one as a slot. That's really weird. But like JoJo will eventually be is he ready for that role? I doubt it. Sophomores generally aren't. They didn't get anybody in the portal, at least yet, that's a receiver that I'm like super stoked about. So maybe that's going to be their guy. And he would take a lot of pressure off your offense because he's a money player on third down. So
Yeah.
Miami's win-loss record would probably change if he came to the University of Miami, in my opinion.
Okay, speaking of receivers, I don't know if this one is going to be a Miami target. In fact, I don't know for sure which, if any, big time schools have reached out to this guy yet. But you also cover the Florida State Seminoles, and I think any Miami fan is very aware of Hykeem Williams, South Florida kid, former 5-star recruit coming out of high school a couple of years ago, was the number 3 ranked receiver in the country. I think that was the class of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But, so far the time that he spent at Florida State, probably would label him as a bust. And he's entering the transfer portal, at least a guy who's certainly not lived up to his 5-star potential yet. So why do you think things went south with Hykeem at Florida State? And how much interest do you think he's going to get in the portal?
One thing with him is he's been banged up a lot. He was banged up again this spring. That doesn't help. You've had receiver and offensive coordinator, like all kinds of coaching changes around him. I haven't heard anything specific, though. I'm just guessing it's an accumulation on why. Where he's going, I've heard crickets. I haven't seen anything on him. Nobody has. Now, he's out of Stranahan in Fort Lauderdale. He's a kid that everybody recruited. Miami was in it, Florida was in it, et cetera. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest. But the first question, just like we just talked about Pena, what's he want? Because now you've played 2 years and you don't have a track record of being on the field all the time. I have a very bad inkling that what he wants NIL-wise and what he's valued at are not even in the same stratosphere. That is my concern with a lot of these kids. Yeah. And it could cost him. Use good judgment. That's all I'm going to say on that. But Miami needs a boundary receiver. They need more speed. I mean, they can say they didn't, but there's somebody that's made an inquiry. I mean, you've got to inquire about him, right? I mean, you have to. He's a South Florida guy, and he's 6'2", 215, and runs like a gazelle. Yeah. So I would assume you have, but he'll probably get 50 phone calls of some capacity through whoever his agent or whatever it is. That's a really talented guy, but this is boom or bust. Injury prone, and I think he had, off the top of my head, 16 catches last year for like 180 yards. He just wasn't that productive. So we need to see him take a step forward, because if he's locked in and he's got a real quarterback, now again, Florida State, they didn't have any help around him last year. The quarterback.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a 50 catch guy. Like if he'd have played at Syracuse last year, how many catches Hykeem have? If he'd have played with Cam Ward, how many catches Hykeem have? So he's very talented, but Florida State was a joke last year on offense. There's just no way around that. But you still don't know. And he's not a guy that's been public about leaving or anything. So this is a weird scenario.
All right, so I want to, when we come back, shift to the defensive side of the football. Miami does have a visit locked in with a defensive tackle, and I'm seeing some potential links to a linebacker who entered the portal yesterday. So we got the portal overlord with us, and we'll talk some recruiting as well. You want to keep it locked right here, man? We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I'm so happy we have Amazon Fire TV on board with us. Did you know, I didn't know this until recently, that your Fire TV is also an Xbox. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. And of course, you also get that endless entertainment with 4K streaming. Watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribe services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. That's how I knew Fire TV. And now I'm expanding my horizons with all of this Xbox stuff as well, guys, because I'm not a hardcore gamer. I'm a casual gamer, but I love to play titles like EAFC. I'm a big soccer fan. I love to play EA College Football, and being able to do that on my Fire Stick 4K is a game changer, guys. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Guys, you are absolutely going to love this with Amazon Fire TV. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out the Portal podcast. I mean, this is the time of year that Brian Smith gets to flex, and he gets to give us all this amazing info. We're happy we could track him down today because I know he's very busy throughout this week. All right, so Miami locked in a visit with Boise State defensive tackle Braxton. I've been calling him Braxton Feely. I'm not sure if it's Feely or Feely. He's a good player is all that I really care about, Brian. He was a starter, second team All Mountain West on one list, first team All Conference on another. Miami does need another defensive tackle. He's visiting Cal. He's visiting Miami. What can you tell us about this player, and if this is one Miami should try to grab?
This is an interesting prospect because he's very specific. He's not the tallest guy. He's listed at like 6'1", 295. I think he's probably closer to 6 foot, but he's explosive. He is a high-risk player. He'll get burned in the run game once in a while, but he had 7 sacks last year. I don't think Miami wants him as a primary starter, but I mean, if he's going to go in, by the way, Boise State squeezed out a bunch of players. I'm guessing they're not down with the NIL. I think that this is a guy that can come in and help you, especially as a third down interior pass rusher. Those guys are rare. He had 7 sacks last year per Pro Football Focus, but his run defensive grade was only 51.2. This is a pass rusher, and he's got the size. He's 295 pounds. So Miami, and just like everybody else, there just aren't any like open-ended big-time D tackles in the portal. This is one of, if not the best one in the transfer portal. I'll be curious to see if they can get him because he can get after the quarterback, and that's a rarity.
There's another Boise State linebacker that, Miami probably should, another Boise State player who plays linebacker, I should say, who I think Miami should and probably is interested in, and that's Andrew Simpson, who recently entered the transfer portal. And it seems like linebacker talent has been at a premium. I haven't seen a whole lot of great linebackers in the portal. So, I mean, I'm sure Andrew Simpson is going to have a very long list of phone calls and suitors.
Yeah, I looked up all his stats too, and I podcasted about him multiple times yesterday. This is a middle linebacker that can not only thump, he's got 235, 240-pound frame, but he's pretty good in pass coverage as well. I was surprised by that. Pro Football Focus has him at 72.2 in coverage. Middle linebackers are usually terrible in coverage, so that's a good sign. And he's got a lot of experience. The last 3 years, 239 snaps, 732, 506. Like, he's played a lot of football. Miami has a hole at middle linebacker until otherwise proven. I'm sure they're interested, and just about everybody is. That's going to be a very, very highly contested player to get.
Wanted to get your big picture portal perspective because, so far at the time we're having this conversation, let me note, because this stuff can change. Miami has, they've lost 4 players into the portal, receiver Nye Carr, edge rusher Elias Rudolph, safety Zaquan Patterson, defensive tackle Josh Horton. And so, I get a lot of comments from listeners who, maybe focus a lot on Miami, but don't, focus on a lot of other teams in the country. They're like, is this a catastrophe? Like, what's going, like, why are we losing all these guys? Like, what's happening in Coral Gables? Is the sky falling? And like, I'm not saying I like what's happening. I hate losing players, Brian, but I mean, just to give your perspective, because you're watching every major program in the transfer portal. I mean, have Miami's losses so far, has this been like worse than average? Is this cause for panic? Like, how do you compare it to some other programs?
I actually would lean towards it's slightly good because this just means your high school recruiting is good enough. Some kids aren't going to wait. See you. Some of the kids, there's always a chance there's NIL. And even if I had the numbers, I'm not going to announce them for legality reasons. I don't plan on getting sued anytime soon. So unfortunately, I mean, it's just true. That's going to happen at some point. Somebody's going to get sued because they announced somebody's deal. It will not be Brian Smith. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, it won't be me either. I'm very uncomfortable trying to pocket watch people. Like, I don't like doing that.
So the question is, are you losing players that were bona fide number ones, or are you losing players that were depth pieces that were mad that they didn't climb the depth chart faster? I'm thinking this is more of the latter. Zaquan, maybe, but he still didn't do a bunch last year, and he had a long way to go. So I don't know. Other than him, I'm not really that nervous about anybody they lost because Mario's recruited well enough. The question I have is still on the field development. Need to see some of those 4 and 5 star guys produce that are sophomores and stuff this year. We won't know anything until they play Notre Dame, and probably really by game 6. You got to have a little more accumulation. But not honestly, Alex, because Miami has enough talent. You're going to lose some players. If you didn't, I'd be more concerned. It'd be like you got guys that are complacent and just happy to be there. That's not good.
I think that's well said, and also well said on proving the development, right? Because we need to see a guy, and I think these players can do it, but someone like JoJo Trader have a breakout season, Elijah Lofton, Popo on defense, and some of the young defensive linemen. So I can co-sign on that. So, all right, speaking on recruiting and hopefully recruiting well, there's a number of players I want to ask you about. Let me start from, a player who recently decommitted from Florida, a 4-star class of 2026 safety, Devin Jackson. I wonder if this is similar to Jalen Waters, where, he was very close with Will Harris. Will Harris changes spots from Florida to Miami. Maybe it has something to do with that relationship. What do you think is going on with Devin Jackson, who's now no longer a Gator commit? And what kind of a player are we talking about here?
This is a freaky athlete. He measured in over 6'2" and right around 4'5" in the 40 electronic at the Under Armour event. Like, he's legit athlete, super long. He's like a 6'5" wingspan, something like that. So physicality and the ability to change direction and all that stuff, he's got all of it. He's at the First Academy now in Orlando. That's going to hurt if you're a Florida fan and you're like, oh, we're good. No, you're not. That one was something you needed. By the way, Florida secondary stinks until they get that proven. Otherwise, you can't lose guys like this, especially out of your backyard. Miami, I've been told, is involved. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know where he's leaning. I don't know how that's going to work out, but everybody's going to go after this kid. Yeah. Look, 6'2" corners, bro. They just don't, like, legit. Now, I'm listening on my accent. No. He's measured. That's the kid that's probably going to end up pretty much wherever he wants. I would imagine we'll be hearing about his recruitment all the way through signing day, because even if he committed to Florida State or Miami, everybody's going to continue to go after him. Very good player. He kind of got a late start on the recruiting rankings, but hats off to Florida for getting him at least originally. But that class is falling apart. Oof, they're in a lot of hurt right now.
All right, so the hottest name in the country is Jackson Cantwell, who is he accelerated his timeline, Brian. I mean, we are now 12 days away from Cantwell's announcement. A lot of folks, even some folks on the Oregon side, have said that Miami is probably in the lead right now. However, he's got that Oregon visit coming up near the end of the month, a few days before he makes his decision. Georgia has also been very much in the mix. What have you been hearing the last few days on the 5-star offensive tackle, Jackson Cantwell?
I actually have a phone call I'm going to make later today to try to get more details on that. But I've heard the same thing, that Oregon is not very happy about where it was as of 3-4 days ago. Last couple, I haven't heard anything. But again, I got a phone call to make. I think this comes down to the Oregon visit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's so close, it's just the money, like he can't pick. But I haven't heard anybody say it's going to be Georgia. And unless something changes, Kirby is very old school. He doesn't like NIL up front. Like, he's afraid of the locker room. He's Nick Saban 2.0 in terms of how he tries to run it. I doubt they go in heavy. The one caveat with that is Georgia's O-line stinks. That should never be the case, but they sucked. Did you know they gave up 25 sacks last year? Georgia.
I did, and it's only because I had to get my ammunition to defend Carson Beck from all the haters. So I had to look up all the things. I had to look up all the things Georgia didn't do well on offense. So I'm very aware.
Did you know they didn't even average 130 yards a game on the ground? Georgia?
They were 102nd in the country in rushing.
That should never, Happened at Georgia. My
Nope.
grandmother, may
Nope.
she rest in peace, should be able to coach their run game. Like, it's just not that hard.
Yeah.
They were awful. So maybe they pony up. I don't know. But right now, everything that I've heard, Miami's got the lead. How much and how much that matters right now, I don't know. But I'd rather be in the lead than not. You know what I mean? Like, so he's been to Coral Gate. How many times has he been down, Alex? 3, 2 or 3?
At least 2. I can think of 3, because he came. Yeah, I think he came twice in the spring, and he came to a home game last season. So I think he's been
Okay.
3 at least.
Okay, so there's really not much more that Jackson Cantwell can see. I've been around him.
Yeah.
I've been around his dad. I think that Alex Mirabal is a good fit for them. I don't know the guy that's at Oregon, the new O-line coach, and he's a tremendous recruiter. But I can't speak to anything. I don't know the guy, but that visit's going to be everything. How does it work? Is it really just NIL? Like, because he's seen Oregon at least as many times as well. I'm not sure what's left. I haven't heard anything about Missouri here lately either. And I know
I think he eliminated Missouri, I believe. They're
I
out.
would imagine some of their boosters are going to be very angry about that.
Yeah.
They might make a late, I'm just guessing. But otherwise, I think this is Oregon or Miami. And I haven't heard anything about Ohio State or Michigan lately. You know, this could be a very, very close race. And maybe it's done in a few weeks, but I'm not sure it's going to be done either. Because I doubt, like, if Mirabal doesn't win this, you really think he's going to stop calling Jackson Cantwell? Really? I don't either. So just remember that, win or lose, is it really over? Probably not.
Well, coming up next, Miami got a lot of national buzz for hosting 2 of the top 3 receivers in the class for the spring game. And I also want to get Brian's take on the Notre Dame quarterbacking situation before August 31st. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Thank you for making us your first listen and your first watch today. The everydayers, we love you. Be an everydayer of the Portal podcast as well, if you're already an everydayer of Locked On Canes. So it wasn't just Miami people talking about the spring game visitors list last week. I saw, Steve Wiltfong and a bunch of other national guys talking about, Miami having Tristan Keys and Jace Matthews, 2 of the top receivers in the class on campus. With Keys, it seems like Miami is building some momentum. I'm certainly not going to say Miami's the front runner or anything like that, but do you think the Hurricanes can become a legitimate contender for Keys and Matthews?
If they visited, yes, and they did. Those 2 know each other well. They're both Mississippi kids. And you could argue they're the 2 best receivers in the country, ironically. I'll get into the Jace Matthews situation in a second. For people that don't know him, I have something for you here in a second that'll explain how athletic he is. It's freaky. But Keys is the most pure, athletic, all-around guy. Like, he's the lock. He's a little, like, he's not Jeremiah. He's not as strong, but he's like 175, 180 pounds. But he's a condor. Everybody wants him. LSU's got their commitment from him. I don't think it means very much at all. Ole Miss is really going all in. Bama, Tennessee, everybody. But he keeps taking visits. I don't think he knows where he's going. I know he's committed to LSU, but I wouldn't put any stock in that. As for Jace Matthews, that one is the one that's wild. He's from a little bitty town just north of where Auburn signee Deuce Knight is from, and they know each other. Deuce told me the other day that when Jace was in 9th grade, he could dunk a basketball, but while in the air, he could put the ball through his legs. When you're 14, 15 years old, you can do that. That's like an NBA dunk competition. Not like he's that kind of, he said he's definitely a better athlete than Tristan. And I was like, oh, wow. And I'm like, okay. And his recruitment has blown up. He's from a little bitty town. Mississippi's famous for this. These kids don't get scouted that much because there'll be like 1 player in each town. It's really hard to scout Mississippi, but he's just freakazoid. Any sport he plays, he's going to be the best athlete on the field. So I don't know who's the leader there, but it's all over the place. Auburn, Ole Miss, Miami, etc. And he could end up being a package with Tristan. I mean, and his film, like, if you have not watched Jace Matthews, take the time to go watch it. He is legit. And again, they came down to Miami. You're not going to visit, just visit. They could go anywhere they want because they're offered by everybody. That's really interesting to track because Miami needs receivers. By the way, that should never be the case there at Miami either. I'm surprised they're behind at wide receiver right now. They got something to sell, though. And it's not like they're afraid to throw the ball. Just look at what they did last year. So I think Miami's got a shot.
My listeners also, they really want me to ask you probably every time you're on about Calvin Russell, right? It's seemingly been a Miami versus Syracuse battle. And listen, Calvin, I hope you watched Fran Brown looking a little unhinged about, losing Trebor Pena. I mean, if you cross that dude, he's going to air all your business in public, and he's obviously not going to pay you very much because he seems to have some reservations about that. But what do you think is going on there? Because obviously Syracuse folks seem to think they have a very legitimate shot at Calvin Russell, and there have been some concerns on the Miami side about keeping him home.
I think all of that is legitimate. The kid keeps taking visits. He took a long visit to Michigan that he really liked, etc. He's a very gregarious personality. Calvin's easy to get along with, and he's going to give everybody a shot. He's made that clear, and because not only did he say it when I interviewed him at Under Armour, he's done it. Now he's taking trips all over the place. I don't know what's going to be the separator. He told me to my face that he was going to decide on signing day. So this is probably going to sway in many directions. I don't know how much NIL plays a factor, but right now it's about relationships. He's got the best relationship with Fran. Let me be clear. That's his guy. But I think he needs to see Syracuse be good again this year. By the way, losing Pena is not going to help that. So Miami's the easy pick. And he probably knows the program. I mean, how many times has he been around the University of Miami? 50? You know what I mean? Like he lives in the city. He lives 15 minutes from campus, so that's not hard. But he's going to continue to take the visits. So let's watch what visits he takes in September. I think that'll be the key. He's going to take OVs in the summer. He's not going to commit. What unofficials does he take in the fall? That'll be the key for me.
All right, so let's actually look ahead to the season opener for the Hurricanes coming up on Sunday, August 31st against Notre Dame, the national runners-up from last year. So Brian, a couple weeks ago, I had a great conversation with Tyler Wojciak, who's the host of Locked On Fighting Irish. We talked about Notre Dame's quarterback competition, which was like a 3-man competition at the time, and he felt at that time, obviously things have changed, that he would have leaned to Steve Angeli being the starter week 1 against Miami, having more experience, to go up against, against a good opponent on the road. But he did mention that it would be possible for CJ Carr maybe at some point during the season to surpass Angeli and take the starting job, but that maybe Angeli would be the safer week 1 starter. Well, Steve Angeli's left Notre Dame. He hit the transfer portal the other day, which did come as at least a mild surprise to some people. You follow Notre Dame very closely. So, I mean, is this potentially an opportunity with Miami likely to face CJ Carr week 1 at home, with Carr making his first career start? Is that an opportunity for Miami maybe to catch CJ Carr before he hits his stride later in the year?
There's always a chance. He's a redshirt freshman. He barely he got a few snaps, I think, last year. I don't even remember, but he's definitively their most talented passer. Like his ability to throw the football is off the charts. So he's a magician throwing it, but it's still different throwing it in practice when you're not going to get hit. So nobody knows until it's live. It's not the same. Now they're going to have a ridiculous O-line, that guy Jeremiah Love and all that. So they got players, but if it comes down to the fourth quarter, it's a close game. How does a redshirt freshman act in the first time he's played in the game and it's at Miami? That's rough, man. That's really rough. I wouldn't want to be the one to bet on that either way. That's a guessing game. So, and I'm sure Miami's going to heat him up too. I would. Yeah. I'd tell him for the game. If you run zone against him, he will smoke you. You got to get pressure in his face. He's insanely accurate. So this is going to be a really interesting chess match. It'll be one of the better games of college football. It's right off the bat too. It's kind of cool, but don't discount him making some ridiculous throws. He has a lot of talent.
Yeah, I was really hoping, because that's a big game. There's other big games week 1, but I was hoping that maybe that would be the one that gets College Game Day, because it's going to be Lee Corso is going to do his final broadcast. Week 1 College Game is going to be coaching, and I love Lee Corso. I mean, he's absolute legend. So I was hoping maybe he'd come to South Florida. However, I think with that game being on a Sunday, they're more likely to do College Game Day for one of the Saturday games. So we probably won't be able to give Corso his in-person farewell.
Yeah, Ohio State, Texas is that weekend. You got LSU, Clemson, and
Yeah.
you got Bama, Florida State. He's a Florida State grad, so I'd imagine it'd be one of
Oh,
those.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'd imagine it's the Clemson game or the Ohio State game, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time as always. Lots of info here as always. Make sure you follow him on X at LO_the portal, Brian Smith, and make sure you're checking out the Portal podcast because he's keeping you guys updated on everything. I am Alex Donno. Check us out at Locked On Canes on X. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods, subscribe on YouTube. And we'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.